Have you noticed this paradox that musicians have to deal with? Where on one side of the coin, they go to places like YouTube, which I think are great resources and tools to get information about how the music business is changing and evolving and what are the strategies associated with that and all that kind of good stuff. I definitely think that's valuable. But on the other side of it, what happens to a lot of musicians? They get stuck in this position where they're constantly analyzing, constantly consuming information, and not actually implementing the information that they're consuming. Because I'm a proponent, obviously, of people getting the right information. I think books are a great tool. I think YouTube videos can be a great tool. Certain podcasts can be great. Courses, things like that. I am all for if it helps you sharpen your skills and get better. But here's where a lot of people get stuck is you can't really sharpen your skill in a vacuum by yourself. And what I mean by that is you have to go out and actually try these things. You have to go out and implement these strategies. And so if you don't implement them, nothing really happens. It's like the law of manifestation. It's like just because you get the right information doesn't mean that you can just manifest the right results. If you get the right information, now you need to know, how do I go and implement it? Or if you already know how to implement it, just going and implementing it instead of thinking, well, maybe I need to consume a little bit more information before I take action, because God forbid I take action that's imperfect on the first time I do it. That's a big problem that a lot of us musicians deal with, is that we think that, oh, just because it's not going to be perfect, I probably should wait, get a little bit more information so that way when I do, let's say, post a piece of content, that way it's as best as it can possibly be. Where I like to think of two quotes. One is by Voltaire, depending on how you want to say that. And he says, perfect is the enemy of the good. Meaning that when you strive to make people perfect, we actually do things that are anti to the good in that pursuit, right? So how do we apply that to our music marketing? You think about it like this. If you are trying to get content that is like, you're not good at content, right? So you need to go from bad to good. So how do we go from bad to good? Well, perfect is the enemy of the good. So if you can't do content very well right now and you're trying to make your first few pieces of content perfect, you're probably not even going to end up making them good, or you'll probably never end up posting them because you'll continually be trying to make them more perfect. That's the whole problem with perfect, is it is the enemy of the good in the sense that it doesn't allow you to get off the ground. You trying to be perfect in all of your representations, whether that's websites, whether that's, content or whatever, that's ruining your productivity and it's delaying your action because you're thinking, oh, I need to consume more information before I act. When really what you need to do is go out and act so that you can get the data that allows you to make the right decisions moving forward, okay? So when we look at it, okay, I get it. I have to take information and turn it into implementation. What is the system to actually do that? And that's actually what I want to cover in the rest of this video, is what are the 3 steps that you actually can implement, no pun intended, into your process when you're trying to go out there and build your music business so that you don't get stuck in this feeling of overwhelm and you don't get stuck in this feeling of procrastination. So we can actually blow through those roadblocks and get some results. So stay locked in. Let's cover each of these step by step. The first thing that we need to understand is which pillar can you focus on. So I'm going to elaborate on what that means. In my opinion, every single music business has 4 fundamental goals that it's trying to achieve. And depending on where you are, if you're like a newbie and you just now tried to get into the music business, whether you've been at this for 10 years, each of these pillars could be different as to which one you should focus on, right? Because if you're just now starting out, I think pillar number 1 is actually where you should focus, which is getting new fans into your music business. So what does that mean? That means you need to focus on the content. You need to focus on the marketing, okay? So a lot of people who are new to this game, they're wanting to set up their brand to be completely perfect so that way when they get new fans that everything's, nice and tidy and everything. Now, while I agree it's a good idea to build systems before the fans come in, I think it's an error to and obsess over these small details like, well, my bio needs to be better, I need to have a better picture avatar, maybe I need to make one of those Instagram grids where they show up to my profile and there's a picture based on all my posts on my grid. Like, that kind of stuff is a waste of time, right? So what you need to do is just get out there and start posting and start trying to attract the ideal fans into your music business. So start creating content that speaks to the values and identity of the people you're trying to attract into your music business. So if you're just now starting out and you're like, Dax, I don't know what to focus on, if you're in that position, focus on pillar number 1. Now, you don't have to be in that position to focus on pillar number 1. Maybe you've been in a band for 10 years and you've grown kind of stagnant. You've had the same fans and haven't really grown for the past couple years maybe. Well, then you need to focus on pillar number 1 as well, getting more new fans, new lifeblood into your music business. However, I do know that for some of the people who have had fans for a long time and are struggling with content, you're probably a musician who's a little bit older, and some of the new marketing and technology stuff is a little bit uncomfortable for you. So the lowest hanging fruit for some of you isn't actually getting new fans, but it's figuring out how to optimize nurturing your existing fans. So your existing fans are 5 times more likely to want to buy from you than a new fan. It's a hard process initially, sifting through, unless you're like really getting your marketing dialed in, because the more the marketing is dialed in, the more it makes the selling easier. Where you really dial this in, you can make some good offers and good money from people who are your existing fan base. But when you try to sell that to a brand new audience, it's a lot more difficult, right? There's a lot more things that you have to look at and focus on. So one of the things that I would recommend is nurturing your existing audience, figuring out, is there a way that you can upgrade them from what they've been purchasing to invest in you to what would maybe help increase their lifetime value to you as a fan. So an example of this is like, maybe you've got some people who like to buy t-shirts and things like that from you. Well, what you can do is figure out, maybe how do I get them into my Patreon or my fan club subscription where they've paid through Stripe and it's a monthly recurring fee for them every single month. How do I get my existing fans who already like me to get an offer that they're like, oh, this is cool, I'll upgrade. Sometimes for y'all who have had this existing fan base but have been struggling with like, gosh man, I don't know how to get this new fan base into my world. It's like, okay, we'll build that pillar out, don't worry. But right now you've got a neglected pillar. Right now you've got people who already know you, who already like you and trust you and want to buy things from you, and you're not continuing to serve them. And some people may think, well, Dax, they've already bought something from me in the past. I don't want to feel greedy by continuing to ask them to buy more things. I'm like, no, that's the reverse way of thinking about it. That's completely backwards. The people who have bought one thing from you have indicated their willingness to support you. So sure, there may be a handful of people who are just one-off purchasers and never buy anything from you ever again. But if you're nurturing them, people will stop buying from you when you stop selling to them or when you offend them. Not just offend them by selling them, but offend them by saying something offensive, like you said the F word and they are super, against cussing or something like that, right? Unless you offend them or stop selling, they will continue to buy. And so continue to make offers to your existing fan base, because they are going to be where 5 times more of your profit potential is than the new fans that come in, right? Because once you get a new fan in and they've been warmed up and initiated into the community, and then eventually they buy something, then they turn into one of those existing fans who are more likely to buy. But to get a wide swath of brand new cold people to jump over that hump, it takes a lot, right? So for some of you who have existing fan bases, go to that pillar first. Don't focus on pillar 1, which is getting new fans into to the market or into your music. Focus on pillar number 2, getting your existing fans to buy more from you and upgrade. Okay, now pillar number 3 is something that I think every musician can focus on, which is because it serves pillar number 2 and it can serve pillar number 1, which is offer creation. Okay, I think you need to, on one front, I need to have marketing that's attracting eyeballs and attention to me, right? Then you also have to think about, what are the offers that I'm going to put together to get people from attention and interest into desire and action, right? That's kind of the big goal there. That's an old school copywriting formula. Attention, interest, decision, I believe, is actually what they refer to it as, and then action. How do we get them to that point where they take the action and want to buy? I think coming up with an offer that's really good. So one example was one of my clients, John. He put together an acoustic version of one of his best performing songs on Spotify that he had grown using his organic social media marketing. So he's already really good at pillar number one. So that doesn't need any fixing. What needed some fixing was he needed some kind of incentive to give to these people who were liking and commenting on his post to join his email list and to want to actually support him. Okay, so then we had to come up with some offers. So the first offer was a free offer for the fans. I'm going to give you an acoustic version of my best performing song and like a little mystery demo of something like I'll probably never release, but just a fun little side thing. Okay, well, that's focusing on an offer, I think, is a valuable use of your time, because then once you actually focus on it and you get it made and you get it like ready to give to people, you have an asset in your business now. Like as a musician, that is an asset for you so that you can get new fans into your email list, which is the ultimate end goal of your marketing, in my opinion. Well, not the ultimate end goal. It's sort of that middle point to get people from on social media platforms into the email list, because the ultimate goal of the email list is eventually to sell them something. And that's where the other side of the offer creation comes from. How do I create offers that I can sell to my existing fans that want to help them upgrade, right? What are the offers that I can put together that are in my email list that are going to convert those new people who come into the email list from my marketing? Offer creation helps solve a lot of problems because it's focusing on something that can generate revenue for your business. Now, the free stuff, the free offers that you create don't directly give you monetary benefit and give you money, but what happens is they get people into your list where you can now sell them something and make money. That's the big point of it. And then the fourth thing that you should focus on is, do you have the delivery systems to actually deliver the offers to the new fans that you acquire, to the fans that have existed for a while, but you just need to nurture them? That's a big thing. You want to think of it like if you want to view your offer as like an intercontinental ballistic missile, and then your marketing and your email, that's like the delivery system, right? You want to think of that as the thing that's actually going to get that to the person. So if you're focusing on the delivery system, how am I going to get my message to the right people? So that could be through hopping on people's podcasts. That could be through hopping on people's shows. That could be through creating content specifically designed to push your marketing message. And like, this is when you create a piece of content that tells people, let's say, about a lead magnet that gets people into the email list. You know, what is the delivery mechanism of your offer or of your marketing message? I think if you're focusing on any one of these four pillars, you really can't go wrong. Okay, now here's the dilemma. Let's move to the next part of this, because you may be thinking, okay, great, Dax, I know what I can be focusing on, but now I still don't know how to actually implement it. That's where this step comes in. So here's how you actually implement anything. You need to, first of all, I know this isn't the sexiest thing in the world, but you need to focus on time management, okay? Now here's how you do that. There's actually a simple three kind of part thing to this. Identify what pillar you're gonna work on, okay? So for you, what is the lowest hanging fruit of something that you can work on that will actually produce some value? Are you going to focus on your marketing, getting new fans in? Are you going to focus on nurturing your existing fans? Are you going to focus on creating more offers? Are you going to focus on the delivery system? What are you going to focus on? Okay, pick that thing. Once you've got it picked, then you've got to understand what day that you can focus on that. Because sometimes you may not be in a position where you can do certain tasks daily. I think a lot of people could, but we'll get there. At first, just pick one day. It's like, okay, Sunday is my content day, or, whatever. Pick a day, and it's going to be the day that you do the activity, and then find the time. It really is that simple. You need to pick what activity I'm going to focus on, what's the day that I'm going to dedicate to it, and what is the time that I can sacrifice to execute on that thing. Now, the easiest thing for you to do is to go into something like Google Calendar and figure out, okay, how can I, put this stuff in my schedule so that I'm literally making the calendar like my own personal dictator. And just, it's going to tell me exactly what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it. And so when I get home from work, you'll maybe leave some buffer time in there for you for relaxation, but then there's maybe some 2 hours or 90 minutes or an hour that you're focusing on one of these pillars, and you dedicate that time to it. Okay, so it's really simple, but it's the trick with number 2 is having this plan of attack is you have to have the discipline to follow through. And when your calendar tells you it's time to do something, stopping what you want to do, what you think, oh, but I could do this other thing. No. I've allocated that this hour is for this activity. And once you develop that kind of discipline, it'll become very easy for you to turn your calendar into like one of your best assets for you as a person, because you can start to schedule yourself in a position where everything that's productive is where it needs to be in your calendar. And you would be so surprised once you actually get it onto your calendar and you look at the commitment that you need to put forth to make this work. You'd actually be surprised at how little it is compared to what you think it might be, right? So some people are like, Dax, like, I don't have 5 hours a day to work on my music. I'm like, whoa, who said we needed 5 hours a day? I mean, if you can, that's great, but if that's going to burn you out, like, don't do that. What can you dedicate 1 hour? Can you dedicate 1 hour a day to your music business? Can you dedicate 30 minutes? When I was a guitar instructor, I used to always tell my students this truism that I noticed between my most successful students and the ones who were struggling. And that was this: the students who practiced for an hour on Friday before the Saturday lesson did not see the same results that the person who practiced 10 to 15 minutes a day before their lesson did. So what would happen is the person who practiced 10 minutes a day, they would actually end up getting 60 to 70 minutes worth of practice in every week, except the difference between, they're like, well, what's the difference? They got their 60 to 70 minutes in one day. Well, the difference is consistency for your wiring in your brain, right? It builds this discipline where now instead of thinking like, okay, I worked on all my music business stuff from, 5 to 9, now I'm just completely burnt. What it's better to do is take little bite-sized chunks and put them day to day to day to day to day. And then you'll notice that, over time, I could probably expand that a little bit. So instead of it being 30 minutes a day that you're working on your music business, it goes into an hour a day, and then it goes into 90 minutes, and then it goes into 2 hours, and you'll start to notice that natural progression. But you will never notice it unless you start actually making a schedule and following that schedule. Now, I've brought up 2 points here. I've said you need to pick a pillar to focus on, have a plan of attack of like, what's the pillar you're going to focus on, what day, what time are you going to do that. But there's a third part to this that's really essential, because human beings were not perfect. It's one thing I was told the perfect diet plan back in the day, but what really got me to lose weight is having someone who is a partner for accountability. So I had a personal trainer who taught me, what diet was I supposed to go on? I don't know, the one that the trainer suggests, because that was better than nothing, right? And so I picked the paleo diet because that's what he was like, read this book by Robert Wolfe or whatever and just learn about the paleo diet. I was like, okay, it sounds good. Let's just go for it. And having that person keep me accountable is one of the things that helped me lose a lot of weight in that was 2014. And so I had to have someone who was kind of keep me accountable, going to keep me accountable despite if I didn't want to, I don't want to do that today, all that kind of stuff, right? Motivation is usually garbage in my opinion. Motivation is helpful if you have it, but if you don't have it, the thing that will push you through, even if you don't have motivation, is discipline, right? And that's why I talk about discipline, is because I don't think you should wait to be motivated to do the things you need to do. You need to have it just scheduled that I'm going to do the things I need to do regardless. And I guarantee the feelings in your brain that you will have when you're productive and you're consistently doing things every single day, you will notice this drop in anxiety. You'll notice this drop in procrastination because you'll be on like a momentum. And what happens? That momentum is like a snowball that can grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. But having someone keep you accountable so that when those days come that you don't feel like doing it, people can help you do it. So bandmates, if you're in a band, having other bandmates be your accountability partner for your tasks can be very important. Obviously, you don't want to be like a drill sergeant. It needs to be friendly, but it's just like, hey, bro, FYI, we need to make sure we get this done. Let me know if you need any help. That kind of thing, right? Have someone who can keep you accountable. Sometimes you're a solo artist, so maybe the person who's going to keep you accountable is just like a buddy, a friend, or maybe your spouse or significant other. Like maybe that's the person who's going to keep you accountable. Now, for me, one of the things that have been the most valuable in my life personally that have sort of like, in my opinion, supercharged the speed at which I get results with the things that I do is I get coaches, consultants, and mentors involved. When you get a consultant or a coach or a mentor involved, it's easier to see the mistakes you're making because you're talking to someone who's where you want to be and has gone where you want to go and can walk you through the path. It's very hard to be an independent DIY musician. It's very hard to do all these different kind of things in life, but if you have someone who's done it before, like I didn't know anything about diets or exercise routines, so what did I do? I lent into this personal trainer. I just lent into his expertise and said, you know what, you're going to be Yoda. I'm just going to just trust what you say and we're going to go for it, right? And then whenever I was 21, 22, I wanted to get into real estate investing. And so I went and immediately invested in a coach and mentor who would be basically a JV. I'd make 50% of the profits, he'd make 50% of the profits, and we both provided benefits to make those deals actually happen. But it was one of those things that like going out and getting someone specifically who could help me with it so that I didn't have to learn everything on my own. And then when I didn't feel like doing things, he would call me and be like, hey, we need to get this done. Make sure you do this, blah, 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 and kept me accountable. That's how I was able to, in like my early 20s, generate 20 grand in 1 year just from my like first couple deals. I was like, whoa, that's just from my first couple deals. Like imagine if having a coach can accelerate your progress in whatever domain it is that you're trying to accelerate your progress in. And so that's been my biggest kind of secret or kind of hidden advantage that I don't talk about too much is that I've always invested in mentors and coaches, even when it was a little bit financially risky. Like there were times I took loans out to get coaching because I was in a bad position financially. Like when I needed, many years ago when I needed some help financially in my businesses, I took some of my last bit of money, invested in some coaching, and I was able to generate the systems that 2x, 3x'd the money that I paid to get the coaching. And so that was one of the things that got me out. So I will always be a proponent of those things. So, but I know though, for musicians that sometimes that stuff is kind of expensive, right? And not a lot of musicians are yet ready. I've obviously worked with many musicians who hire me as a coach and consultant, but I do know that I've talked to a lot of musicians who are not really in a position where they can afford a coach or a mentor. And so some people may be thinking like, okay, Dax, well, what's the solution to that problem then? Like then what do we do? Well, then what you need to do is check out one of the coolest things that we've actually recently put out, which is you can get access to get personal one-on-one mentorship with me for less than it takes to go out and for two to have a bite to eat at a fast food restaurant for dinner. So if that's something that sounds interesting, you want to get some one-on-one help, you want to get some accountability and actually have someone walk you through what pillar you should be focusing on, what plan of attack would look good in your life with your particular circumstances, then check out the link in the description to sign up for our syndicate calls. Like I said, it's probably the most affordable coaching offer that's on the market right now for the value that we provide. And so check it out in the description if you'd like to get that help and actually stop sitting around and digesting information, but you're actually starting to implement information and making progress in your music business. If you like this video and you got some value from it, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and I look forward to seeing you in another video inside of Musicians Ignite. Take care.